Welcome to the Perspective Podcast, where we embrace open dialogue from different perspectives about entrepreneurship, relationships, and education.
And this open dialogue is needed, especially today, as we live in a Twitter finger society where everyone seems to care more about getting their point across than they are about hearing the other person's perspective.
If you're ready to grow your business, your relationships, and your personal development, stick with us here at the Perspective Podcast, because sometimes in life, to get to the next level, you just need a different perspective.
If I look like what I've been through, I'd be roadkill. Tell me off of the pavement, I'm reeking from the...
All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Perspective Podcast. I'm C. Mouzon. Got T here with me. Say what's up, T.
What's going on, family?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. Another episode. Super excited, fired up to get a chance to share our perspectives again with you. Again, thanks for everyone that's been listening. Liking, subscribing, commenting on the content that's been out. Thank you for all of you that are doing that. And again, continue to do those things. Subscribe to the YouTube, share the content. Again, we know we have some great conversations and some great perspectives, and we want you guys to continue to engage with us. So keep doing what you're doing.
The personal phone calls, I've gotten several phone calls. People hit me up like, man, I listened to the episode. Even at work, people are like, oh, I heard the episode. That was cool. I thought about this. Or Chris is crazy. Or Terell, you're crazy. So I've heard it all. So it's been funny.
It feels good, man. It feels good. Yeah. And again, we just want to give you guys something that you can chew on throughout your day, talk about, think about, change that perspective a little bit, and continue to grow. So again, another topic for you this week. We wanted to have, again, the way T and I kind of prep for this, we were just saying this before we started recording, that it's kind of our secret sauce, just to kind of jump in and be like, all right, well, what's the topic today? All right, so what's on the mind today? And because, we haven't talked in a couple of days, normally it leads to good conversation. So I think you guys will be in for a good one today. Topic that we had brought up as we were kind of scrolling through and looking at what we had seen over the past weeks or so, kind of in the zeitgeist, right? Like in society. One thing had popped up on my radar, and throughout the week, I chose not to kind of like comment on it or talk about it, but I was just listening to perspectives. And I figured it'd actually be a good thing to talk about today, which is this question or this debate that was posed. I believe it started on Twitter, but it was posed: would you rather, good old would you rather conversations, right?
Love those.
Would you rather have dinner with Jay-Z or take $500,000? Dinner with Jay-Z, $500,000. Would you rather? And honestly, from society, it was a little bit split. It was a little bit of a split decision, right? I saw both sides. Most people were leaning towards the money, though. I think if we could skew it one way, most people were leaning towards the money.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and it does, right? Like dinner with, some people see as a celebrity, some people see as a business mogul, some people see as, right, a billionaire, however you want to categorize that person. It could be different for you in your life, right? Depending on, who you kind of put up there or whatever. But just for culture standpoint, Jay-Z versus $500,000, right? That's the question. Before I give my answer, I'm curious to hear yours, T.
Oh, well, listen, see, I'm one of those people, like, I can't make a decision like that, because that question leads to too many questions for me. Because I'm like, okay, and we started doing this a little bit earlier. It naturally happened. I just started like rambling off 50 questions. I'm like, well, is this a dinner like that allows me to continue further conversation with said person, Jay-Z? Is this something that is going to be an isolated moment of this, let's call it 3-hour dinner, right? It's a dinner, right? Like we got, I'm pretty sure he eats well, so it'll probably be a nice meal, right? Is this one where it's like, hey, you got me for 3 hours, in this moment, that's it, no other further contact ever again, and you just get this moment of time with me? These things lead to different answers for me. So I'm really going to have like a split perspective on this one. So sorry guys, like, this won't be a hard yes or no for Terell today, because I have too many questions, right? And I won't be pinned into a Twitter corner. That's why I don't get on Twitter. Right? So if this is you only get 3 hours, one moment in time, that's it. It leads to nothing else. then I'm taking the money. If this is hey, this can lead to more things with you and Jay-Z. So essentially, you are kind of pitching yourself, right? And you're having your moment. Like, I'm from LA, so Hollywood, you get your audition of a lifetime. I'm taking the audition, right? I'm going to the dinner, right? And I'm going from there. So it really just depends on what the purpose of this meeting is.
Meaning, like, if you had ambition for like being on his team or being a part of
Dinner.
Rock Nation or something, you're
Dinner.
like, all right, yeah, that's
Dinner.
cool. But if you had no foreseeable outcome
outside of information,
outside of
money. And here goes my reason why. Jay-Z has put out so much content that with 500 grand, you can get access to said information from a lot of different people. I know a bunch of different mentorships programs right now. You got 50 grand, you can go sit with, name a person for a 6-month training. You feel what I'm saying? I could take 100 grand. Hell, I could take 250 grand to get Tony Robbins. I can take 250 grand to get Grant Cardone, or I can take 250 grand to get blah, blah, blah for X amount of time. Like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Right now, I don't know that's their prices, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I could take something that immediately I could hold for investment. And then the other portion, I could go get access to this information and have more time with it where somebody can actually walk me through it. Right. This is why I say I would take the money. But if it's an opportunity to say, hey, you can be a part of this team, you can grow with Jay, he can teach you the game, and you watching him go through, I'm taking the meeting.
Yeah. I hear you.
So that's why, I guess that's my double answer. It's context of what this meeting is for.
That makes sense. And we'll come back to and kind of
I'm super logical, guys, as you can tell. That was a super logical answer.
Clearly. We'll come back around because obviously we might have to do some other hypotheticals in here to say, like, if it wasn't Jay-Z, if I put somebody else on that list.
See, now that's another,
right?
Okay, exactly. That's another thing, because I don't, like, Jay on the mogul side, the business side, it don't process the same as if you had said somebody else.
Right.
It may be different.
Exactly. And so we'll circle back around to that question of like, okay, if it's somebody different. But on my side, kind of, again, that we think similarly. So logically, okay, what would this meeting entail? Does this mean that I get this time and it's just me? Is how I think about it. Is it just me and him? Is it right? A group of us? Is it 10 of us? And I'm just like,
I didn't even think about that.
Fly on the wall. Like, I just get to be in the room, right? Like, where is the intimacy, I guess, so to speak, in that dinner, right? Yeah. But if we were to say it's just me and Jay, right? Just me and him. And that 2 hour, 2.5, 3 hour dinner is us having conversation. I can steer, I can lead, I can ask questions, I can do that. That situation and 500,000, I would take the meeting. I would take the dinner.
If nothing else, there was no join the team.
There was no join the team.
Just holler at me for 3 hours. Hey man, I'm all ears to you. Let's have drinks. Let's eat. Let's vibe. It's your time, man.
I would take the dinner, because I think, and this is where my standpoint is when someone is a billionaire, and again, this is how I view Jay-Z, happens to be possibly in the top 2 or 3 of like all-time business icon people for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Understanding the moves, understanding going from music to something, right? Like, just seeing it and watching it, he's actually in the top 3 for me, right? Yeah. So it would be like, for somebody in the financial world being like, you get dinner with Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger, or like somebody like, you'd have to debate that. Like, man, they got a wealth of knowledge, and I really look up to them for the moves they made. So like, will I ever have this opportunity again? If I get 2 hours with someone like that, and I can get my questions off, and I can get 2-3 golden nuggets and a couple tips or a couple things of like, he made this move or watch out for this. I don't need a connection or anything else. That would be worth that 500,000 for me.
Yeah.
Because I could turn that, and just like you said, you could take your 500,000 and turn that into something that catapults you, right? All right, take 250, make the investment, turn this into mentorship, whatever you do with the money part.
You turn the money into mentorship.
You turn it right. You turn it into whatever you want. I think I would much rather and be more likely to take the knowledge and the information in that dinner, turn that into incredible amounts of wealth, right?
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. I actually, if I got to the essence of it in this one scenario, specifically Jay-Z, I actually value that mentorship or that conversation. I think it's more valuable than $500,000.
And you know, it's interesting because, but this is where like so let's put this in a box, right? We both value the mentorship of it.
Mm-hmm.
How we operate though, you're like, hey, give me said information, I go, right? I'm more like, let's walk along this path together, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like there's a different level of like how people process things. And I think this is probably what got lost in all this debate. So I will say, full transparency, I saw this post. I read down like 2 comments and I just scrolled through it. I never saw it again. I never like focused on it again. Because this is like the ultimate, there is no right answer. Because it's really about, it comes down to also like, think about it, people's belief, right? Like if you believe you just need a nugget and you can go get that nugget and then you're off, you have the skills and you have the, what is it called? The characteristics of driven, focus, you know, discipline, all you need is the information. Like just give me that, I got everything else. Where some people may be in a place where I'm still developing the skills. So even if I have this golden nugget, I won't even know what to do with it, or I don't have the discipline to do anything with it. So I rather take the money because I know I can literally go take this, go pay said credit card, go buy said house, go buy said whatever investment because it's tangible. Like I know I could do that but if I get this information, it might be lost in the sauce. So this is where you get people differing on what they believe that they're able to do in that moment.
That's right. It's what people actually believe of themselves.
Correct.
Right? I believe I can do more with information than with money. Like that's a belief that I have.
Yeah, that's a fundamental belief that you have.
Yeah,
yes.
It's a belief. Like I believe that by my environment, the associations, like, you know, you've heard successful people say these types of things like, I'll never forget this one guy one time.
Yeah, it was always like that one moment.
Yeah.
It was like moments in time, but there was one that stood out. Right?
Exactly. Like I remember this one guy when I was 17 told me this one piece of information and it changed my life.
Yeah.
I believe that those are really the things that happen versus like you just actually illustrated. You take that money, you're going to do some things with that money that aren't necessarily bringing you all the value that one epiphany could have brought. You might have bought the house and bought the car and paid off the debt and started
what you find valuable, right? Because like, think about it. Somebody could say, hey, look, I paid off my house and the peace that brought and stability, like, like now I can go learn. Now I can go grow. Now I can change, maybe even change industries because I don't have as much debt anymore. I'm being very practical in this perspective, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I finished all this. Now I've been wanting to get out of being a server. You know, I can't do OnlyFans no more, right? As we bring up our other episodes, I'm scared that's not gonna happen. Right. Now I've solidified some things. I put a foundation in place financially. Now I can think through it. This is one thing I learned about the human brain when I was learning, like I went to DC and I did a seminar on how to produce seminars or, you know, conferences and run adult training sessions. It was fantastic, by the way. I highly recommend those things. It's the psychology behind this stuff is crazy. But one thing I learned about the brain was that if the brain, like people say I'm left-sided, right-sided, I'm more creative, I'm more like logical. But in reality, the most creative people use both at a high function, right? They actually use both. It's not one side dominant, but you can't get to that if the brain, number one, doesn't feel physically safe and also emotionally secure. Once those things are in place, you feel physically safe and emotionally settled, then you can actually creatively think at the highest levels. And what happens is people get this information, but their life is a mess. So they would literally not be able to go back and process because some people are physically out of whack in their home life, in their reality. Some people are emotionally, psychologically out of whack. So even if they got that information, they're like, I can't do nothing with it. And this is a fundamental thing, whereas that's why some people are probably like, look, give me the money. This stabilizes some of this stuff, at least for me. Now I can open up and think through this. Yeah. Right. And and some people may not be able to articulate it that way, but that's really what they're saying. They're like, why would you leave the money on the table? You know what you can do with that money? You know what that means? I need stability.
Right.
I don't have stability in my life, and no amount of information is going to bring stability to my life.
Yeah.
Whereas somebody like yourself, Chris, may feel stable. Where we put it out there, you truly know, where you're like, yo, I'm good. Give me this piece of information. I'm ready to run. I need that extra thing. So you tell me, like, am I on to something here with this?
I mean, I think you're hitting the nail on the head. It really comes down to that level of security. Yeah. Right? We don't talk about it enough, but whenever there's money decisions on the table, right? It really comes down to a level of security. This is actually something like in my daily work, right? In financial service work, that I'm actually trying to get us away from, because a lot of people make their decisions solely based around money, and they leave off a lot of other things and variables and factors on the table. And it's actually something that as a society, I think we have to communicate and talk a little bit more about, because money should not be the deciding factor for the majority of the things you do. It should not actually be the deciding factor for why you take that job. There probably should be some other reasons outside of just that salary that is causing you to make that decision, right? When you feel like you're being led only by that financial decision, you know that you're valuing money too high. You're valuing money way too high. And it comes back to security. And I understand for people that are listening that, right, like you're late on bills, paycheck to paycheck, you're trying to get out of it. Like, you're like, I don't care what you're talking about right now, Chris. Like, I just need the money, right? I'll be good. But you get to a level, just like you said, T, when you do have some sense of security, okay, at least I know my bills are paid, and at least I know, right, I can eat, or I have a roof over my head. Cool. But then it is about switching that paradigm, switching that perspective to say, I fought so hard now to be secure, to get out of the survival mode, that now I have to figure out how to switch and actually care about something more than just the money.
Right?
I have to care about something more than that. And that is where, again, I believe information, environment, those types of things, people that are further beyond, like I said, we're going to get to, switching up the names. Maybe it's not Jay-Z. Maybe it's Oprah. Maybe it's not Oprah. Maybe it's
it could be Obama for some people.
Obama, you know what I mean?
Maybe Trump for some others, right? Like real talk. Like,
like whatever lane that is. It could be some super successful athlete. It could be some super successful business person or doctor or president or whatever. But whoever you put at that place, and then say, okay, is the money worth it, right? Or should I take the money instead of that person? It's because, right? Are we dealing with scarcity? Are we dealing with some things in our personal mind that says, man, I could use that money more than, like you said, I could use that information. And I just think we have to talk about it differently. We have to have the conversation differently, because we do need the information. And I think, if I went down that rabbit hole of just what would happen in that same event of somebody getting the money, they actually would blow that money. It's from a financial standpoint, right?
If you just take the money and you don't use it for any information, and you just have the money,
you're gonna blow
statistically the money's going to be gone.
You're gonna blow
it. It may, but now the question would become, it's gone for what, and what does that mean for you in your life, right? Know what I mean?
I honestly, like, from a financial standpoint, if we just went down like the financial habits of that side, statistically, and just like from what we see, if you're not used to having if you've never seen $500,000 in your life, right? So there's an analogy I would always say, is that, like, your money only grows to the degree that you do, right? So wherever your identity is as a person, let's say, and I've given this a bunch, let's say you make $50,000 a year, and that's just what you know. That's your identity, right? Even if you start making 30,000, you're like, oh, I got to get it back to 50.
You'll get it back to 50.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah.
If you get it to 80 and you haven't grown your identity, you'll actually get it back to 50. You'll self-sabotage, right? Like you'll get to a place where you're back to what you're comfortable with. So the only way to actually grow your income is to grow your identity, to believe that you're worth more. When you're making 50, you have to believe you're worth 100. When you're making 100, you have to believe you're worth 200, right?
Yeah.
That's the only way to actually get there. And so what happens is, let's say you're used to making $50,000 a year and somebody dumps 500,000 on you all of a sudden at one time. You will not have that money after 3-4 years.
If you don't change your identity, you would have to.
You would have
to change. But this is new information. Like you would have to go to work on yourself hard,
without touching that money, because your natural instinct will be that money's got to go to things. And before you can, and it takes years to raise your identity, you'll run out of that money most times before you can understand what you should be doing with it. Right. So even if I went all the way down that financial path of the conversation of, would you take 500,000 or would you get this information? Well, a lot of the people that are taking the 500,000 because of scarcity, because of security, that 500,000 actually wouldn't go that far. It's not farther than they think. Right. Like even if they did pay off the house, even if they did get out of debt, even if they did buy their mama house, even if they did buy the car, even if they did go on the vacation, in 2-3 years, they're back to the same identity. The money just brought things, right? Even that peace of mind doesn't go far after you run out of the money, right? If you've never, right? Like, so it still becomes that thing of like, man, I really think if we could value information more than that money, it would take you further.
Yeah, that would
wrap your brain around
information, like, without skill, without the right character, it's empty. Like, you know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, right? Like it's always like I used to use the analogy with people. I'm like, you have access to $2.5 billion. You have it, right? And you got the PIN code, you got the card. All you gotta do is get to the bank. But you never get up and go to the bank. You stop. It doesn't matter, right? Now somebody's gonna be like, "Well, I'll swipe it at the debit store." No. You only can use cash. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you only can use cash. Like, it's only an ATM card. It's not. You got to be able to do something with it. And some people don't know what they don't know. Some people have a disbelief in themselves, right? They have a lower standard of belief of what they can even do, right? And so maybe they are. Like, I just had an employee, like I've had employees, shall I say, like, and I can think of, like, recently and in the past, that they had great opportunities. And the opportunity was actually more than they can even imagine at one point. And then they just messed it up. They couldn't stay at the standard. They couldn't live within this new world. And they literally would leave for lower paying jobs. And I don't say lower paying jobs is a bad job, but just like, it was like, you're better than that. But they couldn't see themselves any way different. And they lost the opportunity. So people know, like, yo, I'm going to go sit with Jay for 3 hours, have dinner. Some people wouldn't even know. See, that's the other thing too. You know what questions you would ask.
That's right.
See, you know what information you're looking for.
Right.
You also know, like, all right, this is something that's been bothering me, and I believe this person can give me the key to unlock this, or at least point me in the right direction. Sure. I would put money on half the people answering don't even know what they would say.
You're probably right. Right.
They don't know what they're going to say at all. So if I don't know what I'm going to say, and it's just going to be, "What's up, Jay? Tell me some stories about Rock Nation." Then no, give me the money. Give me the money. Like, I can go buy my own dinner. Look, for $30,000, you go sit in front of Grant Cardone for an hour.
Right.
Like, I'm just like, you know what I'm saying? For, like, what is it, 10 grand or 20, 30 grand, you go sit with Gary Vee too. You get an hour of Gary Vee. So, like, if that's the case, like, some people don't know what they don't know. So it's like, I don't even, what am I going to ask them? Yeah. Some people don't even have, like, some people don't even have like a vision for their own life.
Right.
How Jay-Z gonna guide them anywhere?
That's what I mean. Like
that's why I get it. Take the money. Take the money.
But those, all I'm saying is true.
But you feel what I'm saying though?
I
like,
get it. True.
Take the money.
Those same, and again, we get it. Those same people though will lose the money. They'll lose the money. Like
they'll have a wild ride for a couple
sure,
of years.
exactly. They'll be good.
They'll have a wild ride for a couple of years, and they'll be able to be like, "Hey, I had $500,000 at one point."
Yeah, they'll be good, right? But like, I think that's what it comes. It does come down to kind of that level of identity, that level of, like you said, I know what questions I would ask. I know, but again, this might go back to kind of one of the things we touched on in a previous, episode about just the value of mentorship. Like, do you understand?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
The give and take of mentorship. Right. If you don't even understand that principle of like, hey, people that have done it before, like they can get you there so much faster than if you tried to do it yourself. Yeah. Just from that piece, then that's how I would formulate questions. I would formulate questions because I don't care about, tell me the famous person you saw, like those types of stories. But like I said, and again, for me, this is a Jay-Z thing because he's in my top 2 or 3, right? Like I really can't think of too many other business people that I'm like, man, that guy really, had a blueprint, really showed us kind of what to do. And I know just by studying and kind of watching specifically what questions I would ask. Hey, when you went from here to here, right? How did the 40/40 club thing come about? Because that was kind of one of the first big things, right? Like I would understand and pull and extract that billionaire information from him and take my own notes of what I'm applying to my life. You're right. Most people won't understand how to do that, but that is what you do when you have a mentor.
That is what but if people don't have it, people not used to it, people don't know it, people don't see the value in it, then it's hard to walk away. I know what $500,000 can get me.
Sure.
Like I know, like I see the house. I saw this. I saw this. I'm looking at the medical bill sitting on my table. I'm looking at, I paid her. Like I know, I'm confirmed like what this can do. I don't know what Jay-Z's gonna give me. And even if I did have the right questions, some people, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, right? If I did have the questions, how do I know Jay-Z gonna give me the right answer? Or is there a right answer, right? Like, or am I looking for confirmation bias with my question? And he doesn't say that, now it screws everything up. Right. Like there's too many variables.
So see that goes along the lines of, even just those questions go along the lines of, that person might not know how to use mentorship properly. Because a lot of times, right, like that becomes it, right? People go in like, all right, my idea is to build a flower shop or something.
Yeah.
And I think this person has the information. I go to them saying, what should I do to build my flower shop? How do I build my flower shop? What should I? And that's actually not what you use mentorship for, because it's your vision. So nobody's going to be able to tell you like how to do your thing. Actually, what you use them for is for them to tell you their experiences on their road, and you extract the information from it. Hey, when you did this, when you went from there to there.
Yeah, when you opened up. Yeah. What was your first set of challenge or whatever?
How did you make that happen? What was the conversation like when you were in that room? What was the challenge to get that first one off the ground? Oh, when you took that loss, what happened? Yeah. And then you're just listening like, oh, okay. Because you're going to face something along those lines that you can just get past it quicker because you got the information. You're not looking for that mentor to tell you do this, then do this, then do this, then go there.
Or maybe you are. See, that's the thing. So maybe you are like, some people treat it like a turnkey. I'm going to be here. You tell me everything to do. I get said result. And here goes the thing. That's how it's pitched. In a lot of marketing. Yeah. That's how it's pitched. Hey guys, follow my system, right? Follow my 1 in a million system. It's 5 steps. You do everything that I'm telling you to do, how I'm telling you to do it. You will get the results that I have, or something like it, right? Like, and so people are like, I take the thinking out of it. I don't need to think. I don't need to process. I just need to do what you tell me to do. And if you go into them, and then that's why people are like, there's no way in 3 hours Jay-Z's gonna be able to walk me through that. Right. So just give me the money. right? Like, just give me the money. Now, I'm talking about a lot of people. I'm thinking of all the ways somebody would say, give me the money in this context. I gave mine already. If this is leading me to, because now here goes the other thing too. I value how do I say it? I value like working together. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I realize that more so about myself now. Like, I'm not really like, I like a team sport in which we all have to work together to make it work. Football, basketball, like, you know, like everything, everybody has to flow together. I'm not like track and field where like you run. Okay, now I run, you run, I run. Now, while I can operate in that setting, I prefer you pass me the ball, you set me up, I set you up kind of thing, right? And so in a situation like that, that's why I'm like, if it's just this one moment and then I go off and run by myself per se, it's not valuable to me. Right. But if I'm like, yo, Jay, I can have time to get around you, get within your circle, start learning from other people, get to do what I do to show value and bring value to the table and extract value. That's more value. Now that's worth way more than $500,000.
So let me ask you, would you, because I know I said I would throw it out there, would there be a person that you would sit down with no expectation of anything moving forward, with no guarantee of anything, that you would still say, no, I'll take this 3-hour dinner over the money, even with no guarantee for anything moving forward? Is there anyone you put in that place?
Because I read a lot, because I access a lot of information, 1 3-hour meet, I don't think there's any Jesus like that. like I'm just being honest. Like that's the only person that I could literally, logically, emotionally say I'm going to walk away with $500,000 for in my current setting in life, right? Like, that's just being real. Now, are there people outside of Jesus that I would consider? Like, I would be like on the fence, and probably if you caught me on the right day, it would probably be Tony Robbins or Kobe Bryant. Like, those two. Right? Like, those would probably be the only ones you might get me like, you know, one of them days I'm like, nah, F the money. Just give me like this, just give me those 3 hours with those people. And because like in my life right now, I'm doing a lot of focus on rewiring my mind, right? Like a lot of rewiring, thinking differently, right? Because I'm realizing you can have all the skills in the world and you can have the character traits, but if you don't have the right mindset, right? If you don't have the right mindset, like you kind of alluded to it earlier, like you'll keep coming back to a certain place, right? And here goes the thing, that place, it's not always just money. You can like, I've made more money, like I'm making more money. Like it's funny. I remember, and I tracked this and I tell my team, I remember making $30,000 a year, right? College grad, right? $30,000 a year. And I remember like 30, 33, 36, 33, right? And then I remember I'm going to start reading 12 books a year. I got to 6. My income went to 40. Then I was like, next year, I got up to 8 books a year. It went to 42. Then next year, I got up to 12. No, I ended up doing like 15. It went up to 50. And I literally can go through and count how many books I read that year. And my tax return literally went up. It was like after 6 years, I looked back and I was like, the more books I read, my income literally lined up with the amount of books that I read a year. No lie. Like, this is like totally like legit, right? Like, no BS on that. So with all that being said, like the mind, you can still get to the same place, which won't allow you to really get to where you want to go. Because if you want to get to that top level where you're in the top 1% of your profession, whatever that might be, top 1%, if you try to create like top 1% of marriage or top 1%, you want to be the best of the best. You want to be the example that many people can get to. You got to get outside of everybody else. And that's hard. Like, that's hard work, right? It's hard work. And so because I'm in that, these are two people that I admire for their mental capacity, their ability to process things and be in the right state to get themselves to do what they need to do, etc., regardless of, and then teach other people how to do it. And so because that's where I'm at, that's worth billions. Yeah. Right. That could be worth billions. So I guess if I had two people, it'd probably be Tony Robbins 1A, Kobe 1B, right? In that situation, if you put me there. And as I'm thinking about it more and more in my life right now, if you said today, tomorrow, you have to make this decision, it would be a very difficult decision because of how important that is to me.
Yeah.
There may be probably 4 out of 10 times I probably pick sitting down with them. And then the other 6, I'm like, hey man, I got 500,000. I can go to 10 Tony Robbins conferences until I figure it out and still have all this money left over.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about the people that are educated, and that's why I said, right, like put somebody else in that seat for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like whoever those people would be. It just so happens that, like I said, Jay-Z is high up.
That's just your guy, like,
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really high up on the list for me. So I'm like, man, that's a real debate. Like I would do smart things with that money too, right? Like let's not get it twisted. I'm not thinking that like I would go blow, like it would be the beginning of building an empire also, right?
Yeah.
Same thing.
And you would have a bunch of it invested, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
To go
like,
get the information that you felt like you might just left.
Yeah, I would know exactly what to do with it.
Yes.
But I still just, it's really hard to put a value. It's really hard to put a value on sitting down with a billionaire.
Well, let me ask you this, because that is like, I hate to use the word an idol, but somebody you admire, that's a better word, right? Somebody that you admire. Is there a piece of that in there that is just the I don't want to say the gain of I got to sit down with Jay, like just straight up, like
the fanboy side, yeah.
Is there like some fanboy there, like yo, I got to sit, like, and that might be priceless.
Listen, I threw this out on Twitter like a year ago, maybe. I think it was in the middle of the pandemic. I think I threw it out. I was like, in 5 years, I'll be at the Rock Nation brunch. That's like my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal.
So that's 2025?
It was because I put it out last year, 2025, right? I'll get an invite to the Rock Nation brunch, right? Because if you know anything about the Rock Nation brunch,
right? That's like, a big event. Yes.
That is like the event, but you got to get right. Like everybody's there, but you got to get an invite, like the whole 9. I said I'm going to get an invite because that's where I'm going to get a chance to shake hands and
see. You've already thought about.
I've already thought about these things.
Yes.
But that being said, right, there is an aspect of it. There really is an aspect of it of like, yeah, it would just be a great story. It would, right, like regardless if I took a picture or whatever, but it would be something to be like, yeah, I got a chance to have dinner with him, right? That would be a great part of it.
Would that bring the ability to be able to sit down with Jay? Would that bring any like I had it in my head how I want to say this? Would that bring any like I don't know, use the word fulfillment, but like like self-fulfillment, like pride that you got that opportunity? Not
necessarily. Like I said, more so like on the fanboy side of like I could just say that I did it, right? Like
okay.
There's probably about 20.
Thank you for your candor with that.
Because it's true. Like I don't really fanboy out over really anybody, to be honest. Yeah. But again, because it's somebody that I constantly look towards, him and Drake top 2 in my book rapping, right? You know what I mean?
Fair,
like it's just, you know what I mean? Like it's just, there's a lot that goes into it. So there's probably 15 to 20% that's fanboy side of it. But the bulk of it is information. The quote that Napoleon Hill has in Think and Grow Rich. If anyone's read the book, right? It's one of the foundational personal development books of our time. In Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill says, find a millionaire, do as he does, and you will have what he has. Right. And I always try to break that down for people to say it's not literally like find a millionaire and do his same business. Like if I meet Jay-Z, I got to be a rapper. Or I got it doesn't mean like do what he's doing. It means think about things the way he thinks about things. Yeah. Find a millionaire, do as he does. And right, we do in our actions from our thoughts, right? So our thoughts lead to our actions. So if you can do as he does, you'll have what he has. Yeah. And I believe that's the power of the information. If I would say, and I know you picked that list of, Tony Robbins, Kobe, like my list is probably more extensive that I would have a real debate. Even if it's not Jay-Z, I probably could, there's probably 10 or 15 people I'd put on that list where I'd be like, 500,000 versus this. Like there's probably a bunch because I value information that much. I value like, man, sitting down with a Kevin Hart for 3 minutes. He's not even like there yet, but he's there. Yeah. Even that I would debate. 500,000, this guy that's crushing the game right now and just working his tail off. I'm sure he has 2-3 things that maybe I could just pick up. Yeah. To let me get to my income being there in 2 years or 3 years, right? Yeah. I have a lot of those. And again, like I said, it's just me valuing
getting in front of the right people, right?
Yeah.
It's getting in front of the right people. And I think it really, like we said, man, it comes down to where you are. If you wouldn't know what to ask, when to ask, how to ask, if it's hard for you to have a vision for exactly where you're going in life, then it's hard to have a mentor if you have no concept of where you're going. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Or where you want to go. If you don't have any idea of it, I don't care who I sit down with. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't even matter, right? Like, it doesn't matter. So that's, and these are the things, the deeper conversations that will not be said on Twitter, right? Like, you will not, it's not enough characters and everybody's not going to read your thread of everything, right? But no, this is good, man. It makes me think. And I'm like I said, when I first came on, I was like, man, go get the information, give me the money. But as I think about it, I'm like, there are moments and it's like, what am I trying to access? It's a nice way of saying, are you willing to pay? And I guess if I phrase it a different way, are you willing to pay $500,000 that you have? Because obviously you have it because you have this opportunity. Would you pay $500,000 to get the one thing that gets you to your ultimate dream in life? You say, like, now, most people, if phrased that way, would probably say, get me that, unless your ultimate dream was to only have 250.
Right.
Right.
That's a great.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
that's a great perspective too. It's true though. Right.
If your dream was 250 and somebody offered you 5, all bets are off. You're gonna take 5. What?
I'm good. I've won.
I won twice.
Yeah.
I won twice. F Jay-Z, F Kobe, F all these people.
Yeah,
I've won. So this really speaks to your perspective on yourself and your vision of who you are and what you're trying to have. Like, this is really giving insight into that and what you think you can extract or do with what. Right. And so I'll leave it. That's my ending take right on that one.
I just think it's a good way to wrap up, because this, even though we start with a seemingly surface question of, right, you want to take dinner
Jay-Z
or you want 500,000, but really it comes down to your individual perspective of life, your individual stance and kind of current situation and how you view your future. That's really actually kind of what it comes down to. How do you view what's up ahead? Do you think that 500,000 is more valuable to you for what's up ahead? Or do you think that information that you would get, substitute Jay-Z's name for the person
or whoever, your icon, right? The person you admire the most.
That's it, right? Like, if you think that they just, could give you a couple things that, turn your life completely around. Like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, we all have heard those stories of somebody that says, my uncle said this, or this random teacher said this, or I had this one random business guy that I remember, and I'll remember his name and I never forget. He told me if I just did blah, 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 I would be good. And that piece of information changed my life. Now I'm this, right? Is that more valuable to you? Even if you don't know the question to ask, or like, can you see the value in information of somebody that has done it at a high level before you than just the money and you figuring out how to do it still? And again, like T said, of course, you could still go get mentorship. You could still go get some guidance. But in general, once that money's already there for you, if you think of the laws of, kind of our money habits, that money might go very, very quickly before you think about putting 20,000 aside for.
Because people don't see, it's kind of hard. And to your point, and the reason why I can speak so confidently about, I would then go to a Coney Robbins conference. I would buy the $5,000 VIP ticket and sit with him and get the dinner with him anyway. I get to be a fly on the wall instead of intimate, is because I already spend money on things like that.
Right.
We're talking about people that may not spend money already on getting information. So to your point, to say that they're all of a sudden about to drop 20, 30, 40, 100 grand on something that, and they don't even pay $20 for a book already. I get your point.
Right. They're buying 2 houses, 3 cars.
They're doing what they would spend the money on already.
Vacation, yes. Right. Saving 2% of that money so they can feel good about putting 2% in the bank. But the rest of it is going to get spent. And people don't know this about their own money habits, right? When you do come into money, people are going to come out of the woodwork.
Oh yeah.
That's the other side that people don't know. You haven't had money, so you can't even discern that. That's actually what they say happens to a lot of lottery winners. Like they have people that actually like swindle them out of their money because they can't discern who's real, who's not, what's a good investment, what's not. They've never even been in this world before. So now you get dumped, like you'll make bad investment decisions. You'll buy a property that's overvalued and isn't in a good neighborhood. Like you'll do all types of things because you just feel like you have the money. And that's how that money goes very quickly. And you don't reinvest it back in yourself. Again, back to the point. And again, I know this is my perspective, but like that's why that dinner would be so valuable, because you can take that information and then go do things with it to generate you money. Money is not the thing up here. We often think it is because of our circumstance, situation, how we grow, but it's not this. Information is that. That's why you always hear people, education is the key. Education is crucial. It is. It absolutely is. Education is the key. From the institutions that we're learning it from, maybe not. But
that's another conversation again.
Exactly, a whole nother conversation. But the actual piece of education, that part of it is actually the most important thing. And if you can get it from somebody that's a billionaire, that's already been there, that's been doing it at a high level for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, right? Because even in your examples, Kobe played basketball at a high level for 25, 30 years of his life. Right?
Yeah. Like, you're talking about like growing up and everything.
Like at a high level, right?
At every level he was.
Every level he was. Like he was playing basketball at a high level for 30 plus years of his life. That's why you would want to sit down with him. Tony Robbins has been coaching the top people for 40, 44, 43 years of his life. That's why you want to sit down with them.
Oh, yeah.
You can extract that.
Yeah.
Right. Jay-Z's been in the game for 30 years of his life. Jay-Z in his 50s, right? Like, these are not young people that were just like, oh, I just want to hang out with them. No. They have so much wisdom that just a little bit of that wisdom could set us up for the future forever. Yeah. And I just, I think that's a real debate. That
is a real,
goes back to that personal standard though. So
that's good stuff, man. I think that's it, man. I think we added to this conversation, but now we want to hear from y'all. That's right? Want to hear from y'all. What's your perspective? Would you take Jay-Z out, right? Because some people might not even like rap. They're like, who's Jay-Z, right? I'm thinking at this point, most people know who Jay-Z is.
I think they should,
right? But no, maybe if it's somebody you idolize, you admire, whatever phrase you want to put there, like 500,000 or access to them for a 3-hour dinner. We're gonna put one-on-one. Only people coming in the room is the people serving you food, right? And they get in and get out quick. They're not conversation. They're not talking. They don't care. They just in and out like robots. What would you do, right? We want to hear your perspective on that, right? I've shared mine in my 13 different ways. Chris got his. He's pretty stuck straight to his guns on it, right? And, I have caveats to mine, but, it is what it is. It's a perspective podcast. So
that's right.
So we want to hear from you guys, man. So that's it, man. I'm feeling good. This is a good one.
This was a good one. And you're right, T. We do want to hear from you guys because I think this perspective says a lot about, again, your mindset, where you sit, but we love to hear it just so we can have the conversation. It's not about right or wrong. It's about your perspective. So until next week, guys, we'll sign off for another episode of the Perspective Podcast. Check in next week. We'll see you then.
Bless.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Perspective Podcast. We hope this conversation made you think a bit deeper, gain some insight, or even possibly gain a brand new perspective. If you did enjoy it, do us a favor. Please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Music, Spotify, Anchor, or anywhere else you stream. Leave a review to help more people experience these conversations and potentially change their perspective as well. And lastly, as always, T and I want you to connect with us. So follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. You can find us just by using our names. And there we get a chance to hear your perspective. Until next time, God bless.